You might be focused on growing your business, but what do you have planned after that? Have you thought of selling your business, passing it down to a family? Well, stay tuned for Allie and You, because we're going to get you the answers that you need now. Welcome to Allie and You, the business success and lifestyle show. I am Allison Maslan, and my friends call me Allie. I'm a business growth mentor, and we come to you every single week bringing champions and entrepreneurs that have refused to back down even when the going has become challenging, like we all know it does in business. And today I'm super excited because if any of you have thought of at some point, gosh, I'd really like to build my business up to sell, but you don't even have any idea where to start, then you definitely want to stay with us through the end of the show, because my special guest, Randy Long, is the CEO of Long Business Advisors, a premier consulting firm that helps business owners to build, transition, and sell their BraveHeart businesses. Now, what the heck is a BraveHeart business? We're going to talk about that in a minute. But Randy is a lawyer. He's a certified exit planner, which you need when you're going to transition out of your business. And he is the author of the Wall Street Journal and Amazon best-selling book, The BraveHeart Exit. We're going to talk about that today. 7 steps to your family business legacy. So welcome.
Thank you.
Randy, I'm so excited that you're here.
Me too. It's a beautiful place here.
Yeah, thanks. We kind of like it here.
Yeah.
We call this the happy place. I think everybody needs to be surrounded with color,
yes,
because that lifts you up. So, I think recently with our clients, we were having an event, and I said, how many of you, we had a room of, maybe there were 40 people in there, and I said, how many of you would like to eventually sell your business? And I think 85% of the people in the room raised their hand.
Right.
But the funny thing is, people don't really talk about it that much,
That's right.
So I think this is such a big topic. But before we get into all that, how did you get into this specialized niche? I mean, what is your big why around it?
My big why had to do with when I was growing up, I worked for lots of entrepreneurs. I loved working for the people that had the fire in the belly, And I loved the energy that they had, and I loved the fact that they got up every day and they put their name on the line, they put their net worth on the line, their efforts, their energy, and they took risk. And those people I call the Bravehearts. And the reason I do, and I think of them as heroes in this country, is because those people have made the United States the economic engine of the world. And I have dedicated my life to serving those people, and also happen to be one of those myself, an entrepreneur. So I love the whole space. I've always been in it.
Wow, I'm already inspired. You know what? That's such a good reminder, because I think business owners so much are in the thick of their business. They're in the day-to-day. They forget that they really are making such an impact in the greater good of this country.
Most people live their whole lives and never sign a paycheck. It is a rare few that are willing to put their money and their time and their energy and their name on the line. And when it comes to on Friday afternoon, they're the ones signing the checks.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I respect that.
Oh, I signed several today,
yes.
As a matter of fact. So when you're thinking about selling your business or passing it down to a family member, I mean, this is a very big decision. And I think probably people approach it like the year before and go, I think I got to get ready to sell.
Yeah.
So where do you even start to decide? Where to go? Let
me just say that, and I've handled a number of business sales of people that decided they wanted to get out within a year, that they're ready to go. But really it's a fairly big mistake, And part of the reason that it's a mistake is because if you don't prepare for the transition or the sale, you leave a whole bunch of money on the table and a whole bunch of control, a whole bunch of options, and you're kind of stuck just getting what you can get.
Right.
So because there's also an economic cycle in which we live, we like to prepare our businesses for sale towards the best time in the economic cycle every time. So this is like my fourth one now,
yes,
where I've been through this. And our best and biggest successes come from the people that will play the long game and then choose to sell within the right point in the economic cycle.
Right.
So it's a really big deal.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. And I know that we're kind of a quick results, fast action kind of society. But if you really do plan ahead, you're going to avoid probably a lot of the regrets and mishaps that happen. So that starts. So let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
Succession planning. What does that mean exactly? If you can just share that.
Yeah, I would say that succession planning is actually kind of a subset of exit planning, because succession planning is essentially preparing for a transition to the next person that's going to take over.
Right.
So that's usually considered somebody that's going to, inside of a company, somebody that's going to replace the CEO, or possibly you're going to leave the company to a child and you could think of that child as being your successor. But there's so much more breadth and depth to plan for, both in the business and on the family side. And if you think of it as just succession, you're missing a whole bunch of the puzzle.
Right.
You leave a lot
There's a
undone.
lot of pieces. Well, I've sold four of my companies, and thinking back, of course, especially the early years, I had no idea what the heck I was doing. I needed you.
Right.
But I remember I built a homeopathic academy of Southern California, and it was the largest homeopathic school in this area. And I was ready to transition out of it. I felt like I had done my work, my mission, and I ended up selling it to the woman who was my right-hand person in the company. And she ended up, just staying. We took a year to go through the process. And, because we wanted to make sure the students stayed on and they felt comfortable and so forth. So I definitely get what you're talking about, but I think we probably could have done a better job. But you know what? The school is still running today.
Yeah, that's a success. I mean, sometimes I deal with business owners that they've just reached an emotional end, and they're at the point where they really they want to get out, and they're willing to take a haircut to get out. We like to have people, 3 to 10 years in advance, frankly, depending on the complexity of the business. And how much they want to grow it. So I've worked with some businesses from startup to sale, which went 7 to 10 years. And, some of those businesses we sold for, north of $100 million.
Wow.
And a bunch of them I love to work in the space that's roughly 5 to 50 million.
Yeah.
Because if you get the businesses early enough, you can have this massive impact on both the family and the business. You can set up the family for generational wealth. You can eliminate the IRS from pulling 40% of your net worth away from you.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch you can do if you plan.
This is important stuff. This is really important to think about. And so that leads me into, let's say that it is something that you want to do 10 years from now.
Right.
What is it that you need to start thinking about or working on now?
Well, that far out, which is really great and my preference, it's nice to get an overview. So I would say a great place to start would be my book, because I haven't seen anything like it. And that's the reason I wrote it, for a good overview of what you need to do. And also for a bunch of the people that really can't afford me, but I still want them to realize the best they can and everything they can get from their business.
Right. And so we are recording this live, so you can hear all the action happening in Cardiff.
Yep.
Well, it is a beautiful book. I love this cover.
Thank you.
And so that's great. So that's definitely a place to start. And so how do you know, let's say that you are considering, let's say I want to sell a year from now or 2 years from now.
Right.
How do you know, what are the things that you need to know are in place that you're ready.
Yeah. For you to maximize, let's say, maximize the sale or transition, one of them you'd like to have in place is a management team that doesn't need you.
Right.
And so whenever I start working with a family and I come in and I tell them one of my goals is to eliminate your need to be at that business, for some people that just terrifies them. They have identified themselves with that business and they can't think of not being that person,
Yeah.
So part of the process for us is making them put on a different set of eyes so that they start looking at their company through the eyes of a buyer, not the eyes of an owner, because those are two different eye sets.
Right.
And a buyer is not going to overlook problems you have. They're going to point them out and they're going to want to pay you less as a result of the things they find. Now, if we prepare the company and things are running the way they should be and everything is in order, then when the buyers come in and they look at it, they think, oh my God, this company is really well run and we will pay a premium for a well-run company. Right. So that's one of the things.
Yeah, and let me just touch on that because I do think that is a good point, that a lot of business owners, the business is their identity.
It is.
And which leads into many other things. So that if you are, there's so much letting go is, of course, having faith, trusting, not micromanaging, getting the right people around you, the experts and so forth. And then when you do step away, like, what do you do with yourself? You have to have those things in place, but I'm sure you get into those kinds of conversations.
Right. I started at the beginning when we're hired. I let the people know that I need to understand what they're going to transition to, not just where they're transitioning from. And so I want them to start working on that plan, because if we get down the road and I had a business like this for about 2 years ago, which was about a $25 million business. And the owner wanted us to sell, and I got 9 months or a year into the planning. I'm ready to, everything is running the way it should. Everything is great. And so I'm ready to start. I've even started vetting the M&A firms and the law firms. I haven't signed anybody up yet, but right before I had him sign up with the M&A firm for us to start the marketing process, I basically had this discussion with him about what he was going to do again, because I kept asking him every couple of months and he never gave me a good answer. So I went back to him and I just said, you know what, with all due respect to you, you have an awesome company, you've got children, and you love what you do. I don't think it's time for you to get out. So I think you should sit and play the game some more.
Yeah, what did he say?
He told me that was a great relief to him, because he had told people and he'd hired me to get ready to get out. And so he was had self-imposed pressure. And he said, I'm so glad you said that, because I didn't know how to tell you. I wasn't sure if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I said, I can see you aren't ready.
Right. But good for you for reading that. You know, so obviously you care about your clients, and it's so much more than a transaction, because it is completely life-changing and it impacts the whole family. So it is such an important decision.
Yeah.
So, and how do you know how you're going to feel 10 years from now? You might say, okay, I'm going to sell in 10 years, and then 10 years comes and your business is at a whole other level and you're having fun, and Yeah.
And just being ready to go out is harder than people think it will be. The other thing about not being prepared sometimes is, if you're going to sell to a third party, unless you really understand, if we go through I use a controlled auction process, which is, we use that when all the sales, that's why I do the M&A world. But you go through that, and let's say that we bring, the last one I did, I think we had 6 companies at the table that were competing for the right to buy. Okay. We vet all 6 of those. We interview them, they interview us. But we went with the company in this particular case, the company that was going to stay in town, was going to keep all the employees, because some of them were going to take key employees and ship them off.
Yeah.
And others of them were going to close the plant or close the offices or whatever the case is. And so some of the business owners think that it's their duty, their responsibility, their privilege to provide for the employees that have helped them grow the business the last 20 years.
Right.
So they see some responsibility in that, and I honor that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, those are definitely some things to think about. And you would like your business to have longevity because you put your heart and soul into it. You care about the people that are on the team.
Right.
So those are definitely some important things to think about. What if you, let's say, because several of my clients have talked about this, is, I would really like to pass this down to my kids.
Right.
And you know from talking to the kids that they don't want it.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't want it, and sometimes they want it and they're really not competent to take it. So there is some wisdom and some vetting and some real serious discussions that have to go on. And sometimes they're uncomfortable, honestly, for both the parents and the children.
Yeah.
I even had, like you just said, the kids have to want it. I was brought in on a couple of occasions where we started the work, and somewhere around the second or third month, I start bringing in either the employee that's inside or the kid, and we start working with them as we are also working with the parents here. And on a couple of occasions, both the employee and the kid told me, "I don't want it." I don't know why. I've tried to tell him, but he doesn't want to hear it.
It's their agenda.
It is their agenda.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But let me just say this, though. With regard to the family side of things, we prefer, if we can, to keep businesses in the family. And the reason I like to do that is because, if people start businesses, 15% or something lasts till the third year? I mean, it's what we do and what business owners do is not an easy thing, or everybody would be successful.
Right.
But they're not,
Right.
So the fact that it's hard to start a business, and then the parents come with all this intellectual capital that they've earned and learned over the past, 10 to 20 years, if they can teach their kids or that wisdom and that knowledge that they can pass on, then the kid can learn from them and not have to go out and try to create it on their own. And I think it's just getting sometimes more difficult to build and grow businesses. The world is very competitive, and to have a competitive edge like capital and intellectual capital from your parents is a nice thing to start with.
Yeah.
Especially if the kid has the fire in the belly too, they're probably going to be successful.
Right. It's just that they have to have the passion, right? Like they might be passionate, but it might be about something else altogether.
It can be. Definitely.
I actually went through this because my ex-husband has several hair salons, and he wanted to have my daughter come in and work with him for 4 or 5 years and then leave to her.
Right.
And so as it was getting closer and closer, she confided in me that she just didn't want to do it.
Yep.
And I think part of it was she didn't feel, she felt like it was a big responsibility that she wasn't up for the task yet.
Yeah.
And the other part of it was that she said to me, "You know what, Mom, I really want to make it on my own.
Right.
I want to make it on my own. I don't want to feel like this is Dad's thing."
Yeah.
And I get that. I personally said, "Honey, take the business, get the experience,
Right.
Learn a ton. And then at that point, if you want to then go ahead and sell it, do." But, she is her own young woman and so forth.
She is, and that is not a rare answer.
Yeah.
These days, there's a fair number of the kids that they're not as motivated by the money as much as they just want to know that they can do it, they can succeed, they can build the world that they want. They're not trying to take somebody else's world over.
Yeah.
So that's why I said it does depend on the makeup of the kid. It depends on the type of business that is trying to transition. And so there's got to be a marriage of all those things together, and there's some wisdom to determine whether the family should or shouldn't pass to the next generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've seen it done many times where it's been extremely successful.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
I think that each generation kind of makes it their own. So what are some things to watch out for? I'm sure that there are some really important things that people have to think about when they're going through this process. What are the main things that come up for you?
I would say there's the idea that they need to understand they're going to go through an emotional roller coaster. that it's going to be harder to sell or to transition than they think it will. So that's one thing I try to prepare them for. And that it's going to be normal to do that.
Yeah.
So in deals, even if they decide and they're going through the deals, the actual sale process, as you know, is an emotional roller coaster all by itself.
Yeah.
So you've got this big emotional piece. You've got the idea of having some wisdom about how am I going to do this? Then am I going to go to an employee or my kid or third-party sale? And so what we like to do is we like to go ahead and plan for a third-party sale.
Okay.
And the reason I like to plan for a third-party sale first is because that is the one that it has the most requirements.
Yeah.
It's going to get the most scrutiny. And since if I start with an employee or with a kid and that falls through,
right,
and I'm going third party, I want to be ready. I don't want to have 3 more years to start, to get the company ready. So we push the people to think of it as though we're going to a third party sale. And then we do all the things that we should do with eyes on like a buyer. And we go through that checklist and through that work.
But that's also going to make it, let's say they end up selling to a family member. Yeah. It's going to make it that much more organized for them when they take it over, right?
Not only organized, both for whether it's a family or an employee or a third party especially, the company is going to be worth more money. So this process, we actually call this the BraveHeart Planning Process.
Okay.
Exit planning is one of the byproducts of it. But the actual process itself is designed to help the business owner run their business in such a way that it's always ready for a sale, always ready for a tragedy even. Because I can tell you in my career, I have seen many of them. Yes. Everybody thinks, well, I want an exit in 10 years, or I want to transition to my kids in 5, but the truth is nobody knows the future.
Right.
I had one of these this last year where I was working on a transition to the next generation for a very nice business, and it was to a son, and we were into that about a year of planning, and the son calls me up one day and says that he hasn't told his dad yet, but that the doctor just told him he had 4 weeks to live.
Oh my God.
So I am close to closing.
Oh my gosh.
Right, on this transition to this kid, and I was like, I always say, nothing surprises me anymore. That one caught me by surprise.
Wow.
I mean, I was like, on the edge of outright tears as soon as he told me.
Sure.
Just caught me in my heart and my throat. I felt so bad. And you know what? He did die right at 4 weeks. But because we had done all this stuff to get ready, I was able to flip that stuff over and get signatures 2 days before he died.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it turned out to be a great story. Those people are back in. I'm finishing now, and we're doing a transition to an employee.
Right.
But we had to clear off a whole bunch of things. It would have been a total mess, honestly.
Oh my gosh, that poor family.
You see what I mean, though?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, I think, just to make note of this is you and I, because I mentor business owners, and we have the Pinnacle Global Network where we mastermind with business owners all over, and I have a team of 7 coaches, and we get into people's personal life. I mean,
you do.
Your business is your life. Your life is your business. It's all interconnected, right? And so we get connected to people, and you just, feel things, and you go through the challenges that they have with them.
And I love how your business is different than mine, but I love how your business focuses on building the entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Making them effective leaders, giving them, inspiration and motivation and tools to accomplish so much more than they were going to accomplish on their own. So I love what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what I do too. It's a blast, and it's exciting and rewarding. And I know for you, when you are working with your clients, you see a sale happen. They've been preparing for this for a long time,
right?
And nothing's better. So when you're helping people, what are some of on the other side? What are some big mistakes that can happen, just to get people thinking about that, to hopefully avoid them? Yeah,
the big mistakes are sort of the flip side of preparing well. Yeah. And one of them is thinking that you have the ability to pull this off in a short time. because many times you don't, and if you do, it's badly done. So not preparing is a big deal. And I can also tell you that most businesses don't sell. It's a pretty small percentage that actually go to sale when they try to sell. Okay. And part of the main reason for that, the number one reason why a business will not sell, is because of a lack of preparation. So I can't tell you, it's preparation. You know, you got to do the work. And so one of them is the preparation. The time frame is another big deal. Being willing to delegate, learn how to delegate, and to learn how to work on your business instead of just in it. Yeah. See, not doing those things, it's mistake after mistake after, and they compound against you if you don't pull it off. Right. You know.
Right. So yeah, because, you know, if it's kind of like with our children. Yeah. If we are like there to rescue them for every tiny little thing, when it's time for them to spread their wings,
they can't fly.
They cannot fly. So you really need to think of your business as a separate entity. Yeah. And I've talked a lot about recently at looking at your business as an investment, really, because it is going to be the biggest return that you could, more than the stock market, really more than anything you can do. You've got your big asset. So it's like, what are the steps you need to take to nurture that asset so it's going to grow?
Definitely. I was thinking too, as you were just saying, that another one that I think is a really big mistake that way too much of America makes. So, and that is when we do our work, a lot of times, you know, mostly more men own businesses than women. So we work with more men than women. So as a result of that, the guys that have historically kept this from their spouses, that is a major mistake. So when we come to the table, we bring the wife into the planning and we make her a team member all the way from beginning to end. And at first, they kind of don't trust me, you know, because what they learn is really quick is that we have to learn more about them than their CPA, than their lawyer knows, than their doctor knows, then, you know, on and on. We actually have to get in pretty deep with the people and their companies and their families. But we bring the spouse in, and after we've got her at the table and she realizes that everything I'm doing is including making sure that she's going to be taken care of, her kids are going to be taken care of, that things are going to turn out well for her, whatever happens. Right. And then once she figures out that this is actually building her family, right, the women become our biggest fans, way more than the men even.
Oh, I'm sure.
They do.
And yeah. But see, they've been part of the building process too.
They have.
They haven't been getting a paycheck, but they've been taking care of so many things on the side.
They sure have.
So we just need to get more women, you know, out there building and selling businesses. It's happening. It's changing. It's changing. There are definitely more, but we have a long way to go, and that's definitely.
But more and more of them have the entrepreneurial spirit. You know, you've got to want to do it. Yeah. And so getting that willingness not to just continue to be status quo. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like I have a number of people I know that have had great corporate jobs. But at the end of the day, I always say it's corporate welfare, because they got great big jobs, but the companies send them wherever they want to send them, whenever they want to send them. They're like glorified slaves. You know, they don't own their time, they don't own their business, and they don't own their future. Right. And so I'm a big fan of the people we work with.
Yeah, I am too. And they're brave hearts for sure.
You bet.
But, you know, it truly is this idea of, I'm going to have a secure job. I personally feel like the way I've always looked at it, because I've only had businesses, I couldn't hold a job. I just got too bored. But I think that I know that my business won't, I always know that if I'm not going to get fired, right? The only way that I'd be out of a job would be that I would quit.
Well, and I always tell my wife used to say, I don't know how you can sleep at night, all these decisions you make for all these people and blah, blah, on and on. I just couldn't pull it off, But for me, the whole idea of being self-employed is itself invigorating. and I love helping these people realize their dreams for their businesses and for their families. And
Right.
so what I like to say that we plan at the nexus of family and business.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure that the business is benefiting the family to the fullest extent possible, and that the talent within the family is also being applied correctly within the business, so that it's a true symbiotic relationship, which means they both live better, have more time, they become worth more money, they have more to give to their communities and to their families, and it's just it's a win across the board if it's well done.
Yeah. And that's the part, the giving back, that's what excites me too.
Me too.
So now let's talk about your book and a little bit more. What specifically does your book cover in helping them make that exit?
Well, what my book specifically covers, we have in this book what we call a 7-step process. And it deals with, making the right decision up front, which way we're going to go, because you have to determine the direction. We've got to identify what the resources are. What am I starting with? And let me just say that too, that at the beginning of a transition planning for us, we always get evaluation done on the business, because that anchors for us where we're going to measure growth from in the future. It also gives us a sense of understanding where are we with regard to knowing how much money these people have and what they're worth towards going to what their dreams are. I've done appraisals in the past where the family said, we want to get out with $10 million, and I appraised the business and it's worth 12 or 15. I was like, you're ready to go. Let's just go to market, because that is what you want. And other times I had one about 6 months ago, and the family wanted 25 million. We get in there, and the companies were 7, and they were totally, and the reason why they didn't get that is because they did not understand what it was like to look through their company through the eyes of a buyer. So that was a big eye opener, and the world is changing.
That idea of being in love with your product.
That's right.
And it's really about being in love with the people that want your product.
That's correct. So, and then the next thing we focus on is building the team that I need to pull off their unique situation. Okay. And I bring them in when I need them, but we've got to have really good people at the table. And I fire professionals sometimes, because sometimes they've started with them when they were young and they've outgrown their ability to really keep up, and they don't know it, or the relationships are too long and they don't want to get rid of them. But I have some bad stories about people that didn't get rid of them when I told them to. Yes, but no time for that.
Okay.
The next thing we focus on is the value catalyst, which is what is it that's going to make the company worth more money? And we build those pieces. Then we work on also the idea of business durability. And business durability goes to making sure that if something comes up before we get our plan done, that the family still realizes all the value of that business and they're taken care of. Right. And, and sometimes you can lose a key employee that's really important to your company, and it can go down because of that.
Right.
So there's a bunch of things to get under control.
Yeah. Oh, I love this.
Yeah. And then we work on what we kind of like the legacy part of this, which is making sure that we're building value and saving value into the next generation. That's both on a financial level and also on a human capital and faith level, I guess I'll say, because we want the things that are important in that family to be transitioned down to the next generation, not just money. If we just get them money, it might destroy them. Right. You know how that goes.
Yes.
We've all seen that.
Oh, yeah. And
right.
In fact, I have mixed feelings about the whole trust fund thing too, because I know when someone has a big pile of cash there waiting, unless they have that inner drive already, they may not really reach their full potential. Yeah,
that's and if they're already have a entitlement mentality, it's probably going to be a bad thing to leave them much money. And so sometimes I'll have people push that off until 40 or something, because they want their kids to grow up before they get any money. And sometimes if you give money too early, you rob the kids of what it means to be successful themselves.
Yeah. Or to have that hunger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Being a single mom, I had times where I had zero money or had, negative. And I'll tell you, you get your hustle on when that happens. And I'm grateful really for those times.
Yeah. And the last piece of that 7 steps, that last step has to do with getting that owner ready for the next part of life.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
So you definitely need to get this book, The BraveHeart Exit. And we're also going to outline on our library, which is the AMI library, a checklist of the 7 steps too, so you can have with you as an overall summary.
Yeah.
So you just, or we're going to go ahead and put the link below, but it's AllisonMaslan.com/library. And so you can get that and also get all the contact information and everything you need for Randy. And then I want to talk about the emotional piece of it because, I've had, in my instance, when I sold the companies, I went right into another company.
Right.
And I was thinking about it, preparing for the show. I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I used to date also. I know that was really how I got over the last relationship. I really just...
You never really dealt with the pain.
No, not really. I didn't like it. So I kind of took the easy way out there. But finally met my husband. Phew,
Thank God.
on that one. But, when it's all about the sale, or it's like an Olympic athlete who spends their whole life training for this. That has been your life. And then all of a sudden it's like, you think, oh, I'm going to golf. I'm going to sleep late.
Yeah.
And what happens?
Too often, especially for men more than women, but still women too, they'll go into depression. So it is really important that they do the work of what are we going to transition to, and get excited about that. And one of the things, and you'll appreciate this, I think, because we heard this at Genius Network one time. I think I can't remember now who it was, but the idea was that they, with their spouse, they take 6 weeks at a time, and they try something new. And they do it for 6 weeks, and then afterwards they start something else. But if they love it, then they'll add that to their lives. If they don't, they move on and do the next. And so they keep trying to explore and learn about things that they haven't done or they always wanted to do, but they never did take the time to. So there's a lot of the personal sort of what can we do? That's one good thing. The other is what can we give? Because, there is a tremendous amount of wisdom and talent that can be applied to there's so many needy charities around the country, both in the religious side, the church side, and also just the social side of people are hurting and needful, and there's so many things that can be taught. I mean, like they say, teach the man to fish and you don't have to feed him again, right?
Right.
That kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that, those things are so uplifting, but I think you're absolutely right. Really thinking about it ahead of time, putting those things in place.
Right.
So that you're not sitting there and regretting. And I do know of some people that have actually gone back and purchased their companies back.
Me too.
And even for more money than they sold it for, because part of it is that they saw their business going down, and then that was really hurting
painful for them. I tell you where it's even worse, and that is when you do either a third-party sale or whether, no matter who you're selling it to. If you don't do it well, we like to make sure that our business owners take all the risk off the table before they transition control. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Because what I'm always tired of seeing is people that sell their businesses, they do a note, let somebody take over, they put 10% down, and they transfer all the stock and everything's done. And then the next thing you know, 18 months later, I get a call, hey, I did this note and I sold my business, but I haven't had a payment in 6 months.
Oh,
and
guess what?
Oh,
yeah, it's
and
disaster.
Then it's a legal mess, right? So so we don't like those to end that way. We want to run that sale in such a way that all of their risk is off the table when the control transfers. So, that's a big deal.
So smart. So smart. Wow. Well, we could go on and on.
We
and
could.
There's just so much to talk about. It's an important topic I don't think many people talk about.
No.
But it's like, gosh, millions and millions of business owners that want to sell their companies. So you work so hard on strategy. Why wouldn't you start strategizing now about your sale?
Yeah. I mean, and we're in I'm in the sort of the end of the baby boomer group, But I can tell you, there are so many businesses that are going to be sold in the next 5 to 10 years that if your business isn't being run in such a way that it's really, really competitive, you won't sell and the others will.
Right.
So, your viewers need to understand this can be a big deal.
Yeah. So it's super important to get the support you need to grow your business, obviously multiply your revenue, multiply your profits.
Right.
Right. And start planning now. And the way to do that, read this book, go to our library, check out more of what Randy is doing. And thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
For sharing your wisdom. This was awesome, wasn't it?
I love the time.
Yeah. So until next time, get out there and elevate yourself. You are absolutely worth it. Bye, everybody.